What's going on, YouTube? Welcome back to another video. Today, I just like to talk to you about just a couple of things, really. I mean, I think it just kind of goes underneath the radar a lot on just how hard being in business really is. Especially in a restaurant. I'm not discrediting any other business, but the restaurant business is like, it's crazy, man. It really is. I think probably the hardest part about being in the restaurant space is honestly just the people. And it's like, you can't do any of the work without the customers, and you can't do any work without the employees, right? And, I think, dealing with the customers, I shouldn't say dealing with, working with the customers can be troublesome at times, really. I mean, I think just especially in like the food business, it's like you get like just a bunch of micro transactions, right? I just went to Oscars today, right? I went to Oscars and I got a burger, fries, and a malted milkshake. And I'm looking at the bottom of my ticket and it says order 682. And I'm like, holy cow, that's a lot of orders just for one day. And there's just so many micro transactions. And the part that gets me the most, I can't tell you how many times I've been slammed, and I'm the person on the roller and I'm rolling out pizzas and I'm making pizzas, and somebody up in the front comes back and says, hey, Trav, customer up in the front is really upset. Order, we told them 45 minutes, it's been an hour. They want to talk to the owner. They want to talk to the manager. So I go up there and I talk to them, and it's like, what do you want me to do, man? I mean, I don't think that people fully understand that like me coming from that position on up there is really just slowing things down even further, and it's like, sometimes it's just kind of, it's hard on me because it's like, I try and send somebody else up there. Hey, why don't you go take care of that? And it's like, my motto is kind of hit them up with the customer credit if you can first. If they're really hell bent on, kind of hating me and hating life and hating everybody, that's affiliated with the restaurant and the world, then it's like, okay, we'll give you your money back. But it's just kind of, it's a little bit easier on us if we just kind of come by and give somebody a customer credit. This is my cat, Maximus, by the way. He's a good cat. He's a good cat. But yeah, I think that's probably the hardest part about the business. And, I sit there and I talk to people, about the employees, and like I've got a lot of really great people that work for me at both of my restaurants, and I'm just so grateful for the people that I have in my life. And God has definitely blessed me with the people that I have. It's just over time, it's like I feel like when I walk into to these restaurants, it's like I'm more of a psychologist, I'm more of a psychiatrist, therapist. It's like I walk in and I'm just trying to gauge everybody's mindset. I'm trying to gauge how this person's feeling, how this person's moving. Hey, how you doing today? And, and I'm really listening to what they have to say. Hey, can I push this person? Can I not push this person today? Do I have to lay off this person? Do I really got to dig in on this person? It's kind of a mental, mind fuck, kind of mental like warfare on my side a lot of the times. That and I can't really complain right now. I mean, my life over this past, ever since pretty much like COVID, so for like the past like 6 years, I haven't really been like hands-on working in the business. So I spent a lot of, the time when I first bought the business. I bought my first pizza place back in 2014. So I bought that first business back in 2014, and I worked damn near every single day for like 3 years, right? So I was in there every single day for like 3 years. And then I started kind of giving myself a few days off. And, it's like I bought the business, I was 26. I started working when I was 14. And I worked as much as I possibly could from like 14 to 28, just say, 29. And, that's all I ever knew, was for like 15, 16 years of my life. I just knew working. That was kind of like what I was addicted to. So like, then all of a sudden I started getting some time off, and I was like, so this is what it feels. This is what it feels like to have a life. This is what it feels like to not be at work all the time. And it was enjoyable. It was enjoyable. I just kind of, I enjoyed it. I loved it. I appreciated it. I started golfing a little bit more, and I started to enjoy life. Yeah, so I guess what I'm trying to say is that, the biggest reason that I was working so hard for that amount of time in the very beginning was because I was trying to get rid of debt. I was trying to work extremely hard, and it's like when I'm in there working, I'm taking the place a lot of times of at least one person. In my eyes, I'm trying to be two people, right? To me, it's like if I'm working down there, I'm essentially almost taking two people off of the payroll. That was my mindset, and it allowed me to work really hard and make some decent money in the beginning. And it's going into it now, it's like I don't make nearly as much as I used to when I was in there working as much as I was, right? I mean, it's to be expected. I'm not down there working, and things are going to run, I think, a lot more efficiently and a lot more smoothly. And I'm going to be in there thinking about labor, and I'm going to be thinking about food costs, and I'm going to be thinking about so on and so forth. And it's just I've got so much more invested in it than all these other people, right? That are working for me. And for many years, I think that tripped me up. It kind of tripped me up a little bit because it was hard for me. I wanted everybody to have the same mindset, and I wanted everybody to have the same integrity, and I wanted them to have the same oomph into this business that I had. And like, that's impossible, right? I mean, like, I was in there, I would go, the biggest thing that I ever did was buy a building and move my restaurant where I was leasing to my own building. That was the best business move that I've ever done. And obviously buying the restaurant was the best move. But I mean, to get the place to I don't have to like count on anybody. I don't have to rely on this guy, selling the building, giving it to somebody else. Is he going to raise my rent? So on and so forth. It's like I'm building equity into something for me. So like that was probably the biggest thing that I could do, for myself and for the business, was to buy this building and to go in there. But I mean, my point being is, like, I would go where I was leasing this restaurant at the time. I would go in there and I would work early in the morning, and my closing manager would come in, and he'd come in at 2, 3, 4 o'clock, and I'd sneak out of there at that time, and I'd go down to this new building, and I had a sledgehammer. I rented a big ass dumpster, and I went down there and I just knocked down all these walls. It was an office building when I bought it. It was a fucking travel agency. So I went in there, and that's what I did. For, I think it took me 6 months. I probably demoed everything on the inside in like maybe a month and a half, 2 months. But, and don't get me wrong, like, I still did a lot of stuff after that, but I hired a lot of contractors to take care of the work, after I demoed it. But these people were not in there. That's the commitment that I had, right? This is my investment. They're not going into it with me. So why am I sitting there holding all these resentments against, people that are working for me because they're not, holding the same standards that I would? I don't think that that's fair to them, right? So, and by the way, this is what these cats do all the time. These two cats right here are crazy, bro. Like, he'll come over here and start licking him. And you might even see it right here. Like, I mean, it's like 50-50. Like, there's like 50% of the time, like, he is okay with it and he'll just let it happen. But then the other 50%, he like tells him, he's like, dude, I'm not up for that right now. And then they'll start like biting each other, and they'll just start fighting. And what happens is, like, I'm laying on the couch and they're laying on me, and then this stuff is happening right on my lap. And I'm like, dude, this is not happening right here. So I scruff, throw. No, I don't do that. I promise I don't do that. But I definitely do kick them down if they start doing that, because it gets weird. They got back claws. They kick off me sometimes, and I'm like, I gotta catch them with a quick bow. But yeah, I guess, I just wanted to talk real quick today just about, what I think is probably the toughest part about owning the business. And it's just working, with the people. Sometimes, you get some real difficult, customers that come in there, and, it's not like a business where you get, 10 customers a month or something. In order to like make money, you've got to have like a bunch of, I think our average ticket cost over at Scotty's is like $35 or something like that, 30 to 35 bucks, you know. So if we make 2 grand in a night, it's like, damn, you know, like you got to have a lot of orders for that. But, and then, you know, a lot of those orders early in the morning are like slices of pizza, you know, and those are like, you know, that's like a $5 check or something, you know. So it's, believe me, I'm not trying to complain. You know, I've got a really good life, all thanks to hard work and so on and so forth. But yeah, I just wanted to take some time, share with you guys what I think is the toughest part about owning the place. And I think if I can, you know, go back, because I opened up Trevino's and I started, you know, leasing a place. And you know, it's been a little while since I've had to pay rent. You know, I bought my building back in 2018. We moved in 2019. So I haven't really been paying rent since 2019. So I kind of forgot that, like, when you write somebody a rent check, that money is gone forever. You know, you will never see that money ever again. And, you know, I know that it's a tax write-off and so on and so forth. But what I'm able to do over at my building is I can, you know, essentially pay myself rent, right? You know, I can, you know, the LLC of the business pays the LLC of the building. You know, all I'm doing is taking, you know, money from here and then putting it, you know, over here, and it stays within me. You know, right now I'm leasing over at Trevino's, and it's like I'm taking money out of my bank account, I'm crumpling it up, and I'm just throwing it away. And like, I get it, man. You know, you need to lease in order to make money, but I want that equity to build up for me, you know, not for somebody else. Does that make sense? So that'd probably be my biggest mistake that and like location. I cannot stress that enough. I just think that location, there's a reason that people say it 3 times, man, when starting a business. Location. Over at Trevino's, it's kind of off the beaten path. The only reason we get so much traffic at the new place, Trevino's, is because the freeway system, like, you have to go that way in order to hit the freeway. Like, you have to go that way. So I think that a lot of people in their brain are just like, you know what? I'm going this way. I'm hitting the freeway. I'm not looking left. I'm not looking right. I know where I got to go. I got to hit the freeway, and then I got to go hit the freeway and take it wherever they're going to go. So I don't think that they're really looking too much at Trevino's, whereas in like Scotty's, it's right there, you know. And I think, to put things into perspective, like the traffic counts over at Trevino's, I think is like maybe 12,000, maybe 11,000 cars on every single day. Over at Scotty's, we have a street that we're on called Oklahoma, and then there's another cross street that comes at an angle that is really close by as well. And we're like right on the corner of those two, right? It's like an apartment building on the corner, and then we're like right, you know, next to that apartment building. But the traffic count for Oklahoma Avenue is 24,000, and the cross street called Beloit is another 11,000. So the amount of cars that are going through, right, through there is crazy. And don't get me wrong, like, I think that a lot of that traffic as well, like, if you go back and you look at, you know, our freeway systems, like, yeah, a lot of those cars, people are going up Oklahoma Avenue for the freeway. They're going up Beloit Road for the freeway. I get it, you know, but I just think that there's a lot more, you know, Trevino's is very much like, you're not going to use this road for anything else, right? You're only going there. Whereas in like over at Scotty's, like Oklahoma and Beloit, you can take that many different ways, right? I got to go to Walmart. I got to go to Pick and Save. I got to go to Subway, Eat Fresh, you know, whatever. I got to go to hit some golf balls up there. Like, there's so many more avenues that you can go to take these 2 streets that I think more people are like, they're not just taking it just strictly for the freeway, if that makes sense. So I think those are like the 2 biggest things that I could look at out of my businesses right now, is just location. I got really lucky with the location that I bought for Scotty's, and, you know, for Trevino's, it's just, and it's weird too on Trevino's, like that 70th Street, dude, like, it heads north to south. If you're heading north like it gets cut off. Like another, I think mile and a half down the road, like you just can't go any further. Like you either have to turn left or you have to turn right. And it's like probably half a mile, not even 4 blocks down going south. It's the same thing. You go down that way and it's like you either got to go left or you got to go right. So it's not like people are flowing through there to try and get to where they need to be, right? And I think that that's a really big thing. So location, location, location. I really hate leasing, unless I really have to do it. But I also got really lucky too with Scotty's that, I bought a profitable business. I was working there for 7 years. So when I bought Scotty's, like I knew it. I knew it was doing well, right? I mean, I knew that it had a, dedicated, loyal fan base. And I think starting a business is really fucking hard. And I thought that it was going to be really easy going and starting a new pizza place called Trevino's. I thought it was going to be really easy. And I went in there and I started advertising the same and doing the same and, roughly the same product, the same sauce, the same, pepperoni. I mean, I thought that it was going to be really simple, but man, I just think that place would be profitable if I was down there actively working. Like I know it would be because, there was a few months there that I was down there working and, it was profitable. It was there, but it just needs somebody to be down there that's babying it, watching labor, watching payroll, watching the product going out the door and, so on and so forth. But hey, I hope that you guys got something out of this. I just kind of wanted to, people, I was going out there and I was golfing with a guy one time. I actually just golfed with him today. And he looked at me, he said, Trev, because I try to go golfing as much as possible. He looked at me, he said, Trev, I wish that I was just like you, man. I wish that I could just go out there and I wish that I could just go golfing whenever I wanted, and it's like, I understand that it looks like, things are calm and gentle and relaxing. And don't get me wrong, as compared to if I was down there working all the time, like, yeah, it is. But like, I don't think that people really feel the anxiety that I have almost all the time. I have anxiety constantly. Like there's almost, I don't want to say every day, but there's so many days that I wake up and it's like, check the camera system, make sure that they're down there, check, I've got like a little toast app, for our point of sale. Check the toast, make sure that there's some labor active today so that that somebody's down there clocked in and they're actively working, I sit there and just before I got going today, 1-star review, from Trevino. Somebody didn't, get their delivery in time. They weren't satisfied with it, so it's like, I'm sitting there and it's like, I'm reading that. And then it's like, my anxiety is just always, I'm thinking about, are people happy? Are people satisfied? I always kind of want to be that fixer. Do I need to get my hand in there? Do I need to say something? How do I need to say this? Is this person going to fucking leave pretty soon? He's acting different. It's like that constant, like, I don't think that I fully realize it a lot of the times until I actively just kind of think about that shit, but it just, it's heavy sometimes, it's just really kind of heavy. And, but I'm up for it. I've got this, I'll show you guys this real quick and then I'll stop the recording. I got this thing in my room right here, in my workout room, that I really love. And I like to talk about this a lot too, but it just has success, right? And it has success at the top. And then, this is like the tip of the iceberg. This is what people see, the success, right? And it's like, nobody sees the hard work, the persistent, the late nights, the rejections, the sacrifices that it takes to have that success, right? Nobody sees the discipline, the criticism, that people give you. Nobody sees the doubts, nobody sees the failure. Nobody sees the risks. A lot of times they only just kind of like to see the success, and I don't want to lose sight of all that stuff that's down there at the bottom, because that's what has given me this success. And, a lot of times, like, I think people are so afraid of failure. I hear it all the time at meetings. People are so afraid of failure that they just stay stuck. It's like they just clam up and they don't want to move and they don't want to make a decision. They don't want to make a choice. And it's like, I just like to tell people, man, like, you guys have to understand that without failure, there is no success. It's impossible. We must fail in order to succeed. It's just that simple. some of my greatest successes have come from my biggest failures, right? So it's just that spin on things where it's like, I don't want to look at failure as like, it's not about, there's a Rocky Balboa quote, right? It's like, it's not about how hard you hit. It's about how much you can get hit and keep moving forward, right? One of my readings the other day in my adult children book or codependency book said, hey, if you're laying on the ground and you got some footsteps on your back, just stand the fuck up. Get up. There's a reason that there's footprints on your back, and it's because you're laying down and you're letting people walk all over you. Get the fuck up and don't let people do that, right? So it's just, I think that motivational, sort of things just really help me in those times of anxiety to just keep moving forward. I mean, failure, I don't want to hang my hat on it, but I want to sit there and I want to just understand that without failure, I cannot succeed. It's just that simple. So, guys, I was with my dad the other day on Father's Day, and he sat there and he was looking at my dad's such a dick. He was looking at the side of my head and he's like, your hair is really gray. I said, yeah, I know. I fucking know. I'm looking at it every day, Dad. Thanks. You're the one that gave me the fucking genes, but anyways, guys, I love you. I appreciate you. Thank you so much for rocking with me. We're just going to keep making videos, and the videos coming out in the future, I would love to be down there at the restaurant. It's just kind of depending. It's just kind of depending on, I don't feel comfortable, going in there and recording and having the employees there. Maybe if I talk to a specific, number of employees and they're okay with being on camera or something, I could do that. But, if there's things that I got to do down there, I'm sure that that's what you guys are looking forward to, as well. But we're signing off. This is my cat, Rocky. It's my cat, Maximus, and my cat, Thumper, right there. And yeah, guys, we love you. We love you. We appreciate you. Thank you so much for watching the video, and peace out until next time, guys.